Welcome to AdapCast, Adaptive's business podcast. I'm today's host, Francine Bobrus, and today we're tackling a question that's on a lot of leaders' minds right now. Is sustainability in business really the strategy of the future, or is it just another passing trend? We've all seen the headlines: ESG goals, climate pledges, corporate social responsibility reports. But behind all these buzzwords, there's a bigger conversation happening. How do businesses balance profitability with responsibility? And can sustainability actually drive growth and competitiveness in the long term? To help us unpack this, I'm joined by Adrian Gavenda, a project manager and consultant who specializes in business process optimization and sustainability strategies. Adrian, welcome to AdapCast.
Thank you, Francine. Thank you very much for an invitation. I'm really excited to talk about it, especially it is an ongoing discussion around it, and this is a really important topic.
Before we dive any deeper, let's define what we're actually talking about. What does sustainable business really mean?
So I believe that before we jump into this question, before we find the answer, the first thing is to answer what really sustainability meant prior, so until now. So when I was taught at the university what sustainable business is, they were referring mostly to the organic growth of the company, so the growth of the company that it doesn't exceed its possibilities to catch up with administration activities and to grow steadily with production, the steady growth of revenues and so on and so forth. But now I believe the sustainability matter has changed its direction, especially it is towarded into ESG cases like environmental, social and governance, which in turn come from sustainable development. The idea about sustainable development is that current generations of people can meet their expectations, but at the same time they do not exceed the possibilities to grow of the future generations. And with that being said, we have to also mention few related terms around sustainable business, sustainable development. This one is already defined, but also sustainable growth. This was, as I said, during my universities associated with organic growth, so we have this defined as well. But then we have also something like sustainability, which is really closely related to sustainable business, because sustainability in general is the ability to keep growing in a sustainable way, but in terms both financially, but at the same time growing with keeping in mind the environmental, social and governance aspects. So when we are talking about sustainable business, strictly speaking, we have to define it as the business practice that is focused on the one hand on the profitability and the potential possibilities to even increase it in the future, but at the same time not to impact environmental, social and governance aspects negatively.
Okay, and why do you think sustainability has become such a hot topic right now? Is it just about branding, or is there more to it?
I believe the first thing that we have to mention are the regulations in European Union, because they are considered by majority of authors in the scientific literature, but also the practicers in the business, that these regulations are the most effective worldwide and that they are most developed compared to other countries' regulations in terms of sustainable finance, sustainable development and sustainability in general. The second thing is changing perspective of young generation, because they focus not only on the outside of the product, but also on companies, how they operate and how they influence their surrounding, if they create negative externalities of their operations, and so on. So companies not only have to provide them good products, high quality products that will fulfill their requirements, but also these companies have to consider ESG aspects in their operations, so if they impact environment positively or negatively, and the same with social and governance ones. The last thing to mention is the competitiveness of companies, because on the one hand side, companies compete in terms of financials, so if they produce by the lower cost or they get higher margins or they have maybe better advertisements, but also they start to compete in terms of ESG performance. So one more time, how they impact environment, social and governance aspects. So these all three aspects, all three factors that I mentioned, they contribute to the fact that sustainability, in fact, is gaining importance.
Now let's get practical. For a company that wants to get serious about sustainability, where do they start?
Okay, so for the company to start thinking about sustainability, the first point I believe is to simply take a look around what you do, what your operations are, what is your potential impact on the environment, on your employees, on maybe even take a look inside your company, how you manage your company, who are the leaders, and so on and so forth. So this will be the first thing. Once you will assess it, once you will identify everything I said, then I think that as an additional point, you can refer to ESRS, which is European Sustainability Reporting Standards, which also mention what aspects have to be fulfilled by the companies in order to make them possible to call themselves as the sustainable ones. Because once the company is trying to, fulfill all the expectations regarding sustainability, once the company wants to be sustainable, in today's world, I believe they also have to show it. They have to have the proof about it. And the ESRS can be an option here. The next thing, which is the third point, I believe, is to measure what you have, measure what you do. And especially I'm not referring to your profits, to your costs and so on, but try to measure the impact on the environment. So how much of energy you use. Do you have a policy for wastes? How do you utilize them? What do you do with it? Next, how you treat your employees. Are their wages can be called marketed? Are they benchmarked? Are they good? And if the employees are feeling good in your company, this is also an important aspect. And the next point could be your business partners. Are your partners could be called sustainable ones? Do you think that their operations are fair towards environment? Are they acting fair with their employees and so on and so forth? And again, the same story. Do you think that your partners measure their impact on the environment, social aspects and governance? This could be the next point. And once you have it all, I believe it will be good to know the background, meaning that once you have your performance, your results, you should have also benchmark. So you would know what is your position. Do you have to improve? Are maybe you are the leader in sustainability? But no matter the position you will have, if you will be the leader or maybe you should catch up in some areas, there is the fifth point, which is also to improve, always to strive to improve in sustainability matters, in ESG areas. And as the last point, I believe, once you will have it all defined, you will know your position, you will know where your competitors are. Then once you take the actions to improve everything, just keep noted it in the policies, state it in the policies and implement the policies and try to, of course, these internal policies, and try to follow these policies in every area that you go, because at some point this may be a guideline for you to how to act in the different situations that may be found difficult at some point.
Okay. And what about the team inside the company? How do you get employees engaged in sustainability?
So the team matter, I believe this is critical in the company, not only for the operations perspective, but for the sustainability as well, because I can imagine the situation where the board will say, okay, from now on we'll be sustainable, we will improve our performance, ESG performance, and so on and so forth. But if they will have the team of people, employees, that they will not believe in sustainability idea, they will simply do not do anything towards this direction. So this will be a dead end. So let me just repeat it. People are critical in the company. And also, as I said, they must believe in the idea around sustainability. So it also goes down to their mentality and maybe even the working culture or the culture inside the organization. All these things that I mentioned, they have to be unified. They have to go hand in hand. And how to get employees engaged in sustainability. So I believe once the company will have right employees at place, and once they will say that our direction now is to become more sustainable, then it should happen automatically. Of course, the challenge is when there is no connection between leaders' ideas towards sustainability and team employees' engagement towards it. So then maybe a fair dialogue with employees would be a great starting point, and just to convince them why we should go this way.
Now, let's talk about the bottom line. Does sustainability really help companies compete, or is it just extra cost?
Oh, this is a really great point, I have to say, because definitely sustainability, improvement in terms of sustainability means extra cost. There is no way that it wouldn't be this way, because if we take it from the background, so if the company is operating at some level, is gaining results on the some level and wants to improve, then simply they have to make some costs. They have to take the resources, engage the resources to make it better. And does the sustainability help companies to compete? In some terms, definitely. Of course, it depends on the sector, because if we will say that, okay, if we are the company that is engaged in the military sector, then sustainability, I believe, will not be the case there. However, it will be completely different situation when we'll be talking about healthcare sector, or maybe even FMCG or energy sector, where we know that in European Union we have the huge pressure towards these type of companies to perform better in terms of environmental performance.
Can you share examples of companies that have successfully made sustainability part of their core strategy?
The one idea of the company that is coming to my mind is definitely IKEA. I didn't check their performance, but by the way they market themselves, it seems sustainable. It seems that they care about employees, that they care about equality and social, environmental, and governance aspects. So this is the first example that is coming to my mind. But if I would have to say more in a general way about all the companies, not with the specific example, I think I would go for the small companies, like in total, because we have to keep in mind that the most of the innovations that take place in the small companies, because it is much easier for small companies to start being sustainable when they start a business than for the huge company to change their approach towards sustainability, or maybe in general towards operations, because as we know, ESG performance of the company depends on its operations. So they will, in order to improve in ESG performance, they would have to change their approach towards operations and maybe do some changes there. So this would be definitely much more complicated and much more difficult than for the small company simply to start business along with being sustainability at one go.
And how do companies track their progress? It's really easy to talk about sustainability, but how do you know if it's actually working?
Really great point, and this was the point of discussion of many decades, I believe, especially in European Union. And quite recently, European Union came up with the idea of ESRS, that I mentioned previously, European Sustainability Reporting Standards. So they include clear guidelines, according to my knowledge and opinion. They include clear guidelines for the companies, how to measure their impact on the surrounding, what could be perceived as the good practice, what necessarily not. So, yes, basically, if you want to track your progress in sustainability, the first goal could be ESRS.
What about the challenges businesses face? Why do some companies struggle with sustainability?
Really good question. I believe that it sums up part of our discussion so far. The first thing, as I said previously, will be definitely the initial cost, because companies, in order to improve in terms of no matter what area of the performance, they just have to engage resources. Sometimes it will be human resources, sometimes it will be financial, but in all of the aspects, they all go down to the matter of costs. Then the second challenge, I think this is in human nature, because we can find it in the resistance for change. If you have the right team, it will be much easier, but if you have employees that are not necessarily with the idea of sustainability, they will simply say, no, this should not be the correct direction of our company that is going, and simply it will be a huge challenge then. So these are the 2 points that I think of right now, and yeah, I think that's it.
Now let's come back to the big question of the day. Is sustainability just a trend, or is it really a strategy for the future?
I believe that when sustainability came into the spotlight of the public, it was definitely a trend. We had many examples of greenwashing by the companies, so acting as green even though they were completely not green, that they were not sustainable, but they just simply advertised themselves as the sustainable ones and the green ones. So this was then a trend. Along with the regulations, better regulations introduced not only in EU but all over the world as well. I think that sustainability is becoming a future of the business, but it is becoming. So this is definitely not the steady state. So from this point, to get to sustainable business in more common way for most of the companies to be sustainable, I believe this is a really long path to go, especially that most of the companies right now think about sustainability still not as a strategy, but rather as a supplement to their strategy. That first of all, they will operate in a way to make profit, and then maybe there will be a place as well for ESG. So once this will change in terms of the how companies perceive sustainability, so not as a supplement to strategy, but included in the strategy, I believe this will be a really good starting point for the companies to go more towards sustainability, and this should assure that in the future business will become more sustainable.
And finally, for a business leader listening right now who wants to take action, what is the very first step they should take?
I think I mentioned it in one of the previous questions, but I'm really happy to sum it up right now. So first of all, take a look around what you do, what is your impact. Then refer to some of the guidelines that are available, not only ESRS, but as well as global reporting initiatives and etc. Then once you will have it, assess what you do, what is your impact, try to benchmark it with the market, with competitors, try to improve it, and once you will have it steady, try to create a really good policy that your company will comply with, of course, internal policy that your employees will also believe in and will want to take part in it. So this is the starting point today.
Adrian, thank you so much for this conversation. I think a lot of leaders are going to walk away from this episode with new ideas and maybe a new mindset about sustainability. Where can listeners reach you to find out more?
So the best way is to connect me with on LinkedIn, and I'm always happy to talk about how business can drive change while staying competitive. So one more time, Francine, thank you very much for an invitation. It was a huge pleasure to be here today.
Perfect. And for our listeners, thank you for joining us on AdapCast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to share it with someone who might benefit from it. If you want to know more about today's topic or any of our service offerings, please check out our website at adaptivesag.com. See you on the next AdapCast.